Yo guys, welcome back. So this video is going to be kind of a supplement to my last video. If you saw where I did the install on the bell crank on the Baja 2.0, this is the original, well, V2 of the original version of the Baja Rey. So it does have a different setup for the bell crank. On the 2.0s, they moved, it has a longer link, and the splines on the servo are more toward the outside here. So they definitely are different. I want to see if this bell crank, this is made for the Hammer Rey, the Razor Rey, the Baja Rey 2.0. I want to see if this is going to work. I don't really see a huge difference. I'm pretty sure the chassis, the top plate are the same. The bell crank itself up here, I think, is similar. I really think it's just this link arm here that's different. So I'm gonna pull this apart and try to make this work because there is so much flex. It's kind of hard to really see, but what ends up happening is the tie rod here just, it flexes the arms that come out here. There's a ton of flex between the pivot here and the link. And what's happening is I'm just not getting, let me fire this up and I'll show you exactly what the issue is here. Okay, so the issue is just there's so much flex. You can see I have very limited, let's see if I can do this with one hand. Yeah, you see how much more steering you get? And it's not the endpoints. With the front in the air, you get full lock to lock. It's just with any little bit of weight or resistance on these front wheels, you get so much flex in the steering assembly. It's just never going to turn right. I mean, the flex, it's nice in one way because if you take a little bit of a hit to your wheel, which happens constantly on this if you're running in rough terrain, it does absorb it a little bit, but only to a degree. Especially if you run this in cold weather, that plastic gets very brittle, and I've broken bell cranks in the past with my first version of my Baja Rey, and it's just no fun. It's no fun to drive this without accurate steering, so you really lose quite a bit. So yeah, let's try to make this work, and I'll just show you guys kind of the highlights. If you want to see like a full detailed install, check out my video on my on the Baja 2.0 where I go really into detail. I'll just cover anything that is different on this one, and I'll let you guys know if it works. If this works, it's going to be great. It's a huge improvement over these, and I'm sure a lot of guys are still running this original version. So let's get this apart and see what happens. So another problem I found, the pin here, the pivot pin, was actually popped out of place on the bottom. Maybe whoever had this apart before I got it put it back together wrong, not sure, or maybe it's cracked on the bottom. I'll have to inspect it when I take it apart. But this thing, you could see it's sliding the entire, there's so much resistance in this, and you can see how much dirt gets built up down there. This is what I was saying in the last video, guys. The E-Viratrue racks use a bronze sintered bushing instead of these tiny little cartridge ball bearings. These things get crapped up so quick that this is what happens. It just starts to bind up. I guarantee you these bearings are just seized up in here, especially if you get through any kind of moisture, running a little bit of mud or water in here, or if you wash this thing off, it's gonna seize these up. These are very difficult to get to lubricate, and I feel like, I'll show you guys when I do this, but in here, it's a sintered bronze bushing that essentially can't fail. It can wear out and get a little sloppy over time. We'll see how long these hold up, but it can't seize up because it's bronze, and it's an oiled, it's very porous, and it has like oil, especially if you put a couple drips on there, it just gets into the pores of the oil, and there's nothing to really bind up in there. So I just think it's a better solution for a pivot like this. So I hope this works. Let me get this out. This is what I was talking about. Look at these bearings. Now, full disclosure, you saw the last video where I ran this, it was really muddy. I did have to come home and hose this thing off. Even after spraying this thing down with WD-40 as best I can and stuff, you still end up with this. And that's what I'm saying. It's just, this is a very bad location to have tiny little bearings. And these are not rubber sealed bearings on here. These are just metal shielded, which means they're not waterproof at all. These are all completely seized up. There is no saving these. So yeah, I mean, the choice is don't don't run this, don't get this wet at all, and try to keep these sprayed down with WD-40 or whatever you can get in there, and run this. But again, this thing is very flexible. You know, look at, it's just super easy to flex this whole thing out of position, and that's exactly what was happening. All this drag on here was not helping anything, but a big part of it too, and that's why I could see it flexing so much, is because there was so much resistance in the steering. You could just see this thing flexing. The good news is, so far, this seems like it fits perfect. Everything lines up. It popped right down into the bottom locating holes in the chassis. All the top holes line up like they should. This design also incorporates, instead of just pushing up through there, a little cap that goes down and actually like sandwiches this top plate in place, so you get like no flex in this whole system. And I gotta pull this apart. I want to get some Loctite on these before I try to permanently install this. All I need to do is the servo that was mounted in this position, I need to just turn it around. The wiring's not letting me turn it around, but just flip it around so that the spline and the horn are over here, and then use the longer link that comes with the kit. I don't see why it wouldn't work in this horn, because that's Spectrum servo. This is the A6150. I've never run this before, but okay, so this is the horn I was telling you guys about in the last video. If you wanted to upgrade your servo, this horn could potentially work fine. They do make this. This is a Losi horn, and they make this in a 25 tooth. So if you wanted to do an aftermarket servo, I think this probably is the best option right now, because of the way it's curved down. It does give you the clearance. But yeah, let me get this out, and some Loctite and everything else, and then we're going to go ahead with the installation here. Here are the bronze bushings I'm talking about here. So this would be the equivalent. See how much beefier this top plate is too. But you have so much more surface area on that bushing. This bearing, you know, the inner race and the outer race really just are connected through the tiniest little balls. You know, that's actually the ball bearing inside, and the surface area nose is so tiny. I don't think it's great for like lateral forces, which would be on this, more than a fast spinning type of an application. So this just makes way more sense to me. So I'm going to put a drip of some lubricant on here on the top and the bottom plate, and so far these have been holding up great. They work really well on everything else I've put them in, so I think this is a better solution, and you're never going to end up with this. These can't rust. You know, there's no corrosion on bronze, and there's no bearings to fail, so it's just a better solution. So like I said, flip the servo 180 degrees. So the output is here. Use the arm from the kit. I mean, everything lines up fine. I think this is going to work out perfectly fine. And so once I get everything bolted up, I'll fire this thing up and set the endpoints again. I made sure I kept my original horn even here at 90 degrees when I pulled it off, so I popped the new one back on in the same position, so shouldn't really be too far off in terms of steering trim, but we'll see. Here we go. So you can see I ended up using the bottom row of holes on the toe link mount and the innermost, and that gives you a decent amount of toe out. I think it's going to be just about right. If you use the top row inner hole, it's kind of almost like 0 degrees toe, so I'm not sure. I'm going to run it like this and try. Of course, the better option overall is to just get adjustable toe links so you can really fine tune everything way more precisely, but way better steering. I haven't even messed with these endpoints yet, and I'm getting almost full lock. So let me set these endpoints. I think I can dial it in a little bit better, but man, it's so much more accurate already. And 0 clearance issues. Everything works out perfectly well, just like it does on the 2.0. So huge success. I am super pumped about this. This is going to make a big difference. I was able to dial up my endpoints quite a bit. I mean, it is really steering very sharp now. so much more. And I'm wondering, like, it almost seems like it's getting more steering throw this way than it could originally, because I think the link here is kind of short on the original one. It seems like there's a bigger distance here, so that's going to give you a decent amount more throw. But regardless, I mean, this is really nice now. And zero issue with it having any resistance on this silicone mat too. So I can't wait to get this thing out for a rip. So really happy with that. Shout out to E-Viratrue. They really make some great products. This is by far the best bell crank that I've installed on any truck, hands down. This is now, I think, the 4th or 5th. Well, I installed a couple for my buddy Matt. I think I've installed 6 of these so far, all in raised 10 scales and 6 scales. And they work extremely well, and they hold up to abuse. Very strong, well-made product. So highly recommend it, guys. Check out the link below. I'll link the steering rack. You can pick them up on eBay. You can go directly to their website, and yeah, drop them a note. Tell them you saw the video online, and I appreciate it, guys. Consider subscribing. And check back. I need to create a playlist for my Baja Rey, so I'm going to do that today. I'll have all my videos for Baja Rey stuff in one spot. Go to my playlists and check it out, and you'll find the link to the 2.0 install and anything else. I'm going to be doing some more suspension tuning on this soon. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Guys, the steering on this thing is on point. I mean, full lock-to-lock steering constantly. The difference is huge. This thing rips now. You can put it anywhere you want it. You can do turn pretty much anything into a berm. It's almost oversteering at times, and I'm ending up rolling it a bit much. I got to get used to the steering. I don't have the gyro turned on this truck right now, so it's not correcting anything. But man, the steering is so good. That's my battery. But yeah, man, super impressed with this. I have a lot more running video that I'm going to post up in the next day or two. I wanted to keep this video kind of more on point about the steering upgrade, the E-Viratrue bell crank. So check back soon. I'll have that. I'll put it in my playlist. I still have to make a playlist for my Baja Rey. I'm going to get to that soon. But I did also change up the suspension slightly for this run. I'm now running 45 weight in the rear shocks. These are the Proline Power Stroke shocks. I'm still not happy with the suspension at all. I think the springs are way too soft on this thing. I got to figure something out. I may go a completely different direction and do some UDR shocks, front UDR shocks in the rear, and then figure something else out for the front. I don't know yet. I got to figure it out, but just not happy with the performance of the suspension so far. But other than that, this truck is a blast, man. This thing took a pretty good beating, and I had zero issues. I'm running this on 3S. I dialed my dual rate down to about 60% just because this is a smaller area, and I was getting plenty of speed to do cool stuff like this. This ended up being so much fun, man. Just doing like this kind of wall ride section. I have a lot of cool slow-mo shots where this truck was pulling off some things that kind of seem to defy physics. So definitely check back, guys. I'm going to have a lot more coming up very soon. Thanks. Later.